All right. Okay, hi everybody. Sorry for being late. Somehow my like I turned everything on and my mic didn't work. And I was fumbling around getting the mic working. So I hope everybody's here. Hi. Um can you please give me a quick sign from LinkedIn and from YouTube if the connections are working? I think I see people viewing on YouTube, but it would be cool to quickly have a quick hello world from LinkedIn and from YouTube. Okay. First from YouTube. YouTube works. That's awesome. And what about the LinkedIn community? Okay. I shot. Oh, all right. Thanks a lot. Hi. Hello. Hi, everybody. Now the LinkedIn hello worlds are coming in. All right. Hi, Sharon. All right. Awesome. Yeah. So today I thought I talk a bit about the coaching. I had a session this morning, and I think we like once we talked about that, I was thinking, this is something for a live stream. This is something I want to show you, and this is something I want to show today. We were talking about how to bring in data into a SQL database if it's laying around, for instance, in a file or something. And I was thinking about a bit about okay, what we could do, and we had a discussion actually what to do. And so I want to share this with you. You already saw the topic in the thumbnail here. Yeah. But that's what I want to talk about today. But first, yesterday we opened the coaching again. So you can now, when you go to learndataengineering.com here to the site, and you're interested in the coaching, you can go down here, coaching. Then you see my face here. I have a video what it's all about, and how the coaching basically works, which tools we're usually using, and also like what courses are in that, because you have full access to the academy, and also you can now enroll again into the coaching. So that's what I wanted to tell you before. Coaching is open again. I already have two students who joined early, so there are 4 more slots available. If you're interested, check it out. If you have some questions, just let me know. Send me an email, andreas@teamdatascience.com. I think I have the email. That it should be on the website as well in the bottom. Just send me if you have any questions about that. Yeah. So let's see a few interesting hello worlds. Select star from teachers where teacher name. Very good. Print hello world from Canada. Hi, Canada. Canada, well, it's... What time is it here? Is it for you in Canada? Early morning, right? Yeah. So really cool. Thanks a lot. As I said, today we're let me show you what we're going to talk about today. Let me bring it up here. So what I want to talk about, one question that came up early here was, what application are you using to create this diagram from Google? What I'm using is Miro.com. Miro from Miro.com. Miro is the board name, or the company name who creates these boards, and I use them for the coaching all the time. I have a template that I talk with people from the coaching, and it's really cool. You can do a lot of cool things. One thing that I started to implement in my coaching lately is actually using a Kanban framework We have a few frameworks here. No, not this. Let's go back here. Usually I go for action plan, and it's really cool. You can here say, okay, this to do in progress done, and then you can basically move your project around. And that's what I do a lot with the coaching students, where we then at the end of each session we plan the action plans for the next round. So Miro is something I can only recommend. I'm a visual guy, so I really like that, how that works. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if any one of you have already tried this. I think it's a really cool tool to actually use. So what I want to talk about today, this morning, I would have said, but it's 3 p.m. In Germany. So this morning in the coaching session, what we talked about was, let's say you have an RDS database on AWS, and you have something laying around in S3. What could you do to feed that data into RDS? And my students said, like, okay, right now I have a Lambda function, and this Lambda I use to read the file and to write then the data into RDS. And I think this is a nice approach for something small, right? You could say, okay, let me put here something. You could say, okay, let's start. Let you write this Lambda. These files are coming in regularly with CloudWatch. I think it's, how do you write CloudWatch here? Something like that. With CloudWatch, you actually schedule this thing, and you would run it. Right? That's something you could actually use. So CloudWatch would trigger that Lambda like every 5 minutes. It would read the file or the files, process it, and write it to RDS. The thing is, this only, and that's why I was like hesitant, because this only works if you have small files here, if from a data size, because Lambdas are limited to a maximum size. And also, if you want to do something more complicated, you would have to run the Lambda functions for a longer time, which more or less most likely wouldn't work. So if you have gigabytes of files, this wouldn't be the right solution to actually use a Lambda, in my opinion, to process this. And that's why I was thinking, okay, I'd try to, okay, what would be a step to actually do this differently? So one thing you could do is, and this is a very like a bare bone thing that you could use on a hardware server, but you could also use on AWS. You could say, okay, I'm getting myself a EC2 instance, and this doesn't need to be a big instance. Well, depending on the file size that you have, it needs to have enough RAM and enough CPU firepower to actually process everything. But you could say, okay, I'm doing it the Linux, the traditional way. You get yourself a VM, a Linux VM, Linux EC2 instance. You put your Python script that actually reads the files and writes the data into RDS. You take that and you put this on your EC2 instance, and then you actually let it run. And make this here. You let this run and write into the RDS database. That's something I think you could do. That would be a valid way of actually processing the data. So who has some experience with that, or who I'm guessing a lot of you have already done this. Like, you get a Linux machine somewhere, or work on a Linux server, and have a local script running. I think this should be fairly easy, right? Yeah, Sam, I'm using, why doesn't it show? I'm using Miro, yes. All right, so that's something I think that people could use, and it would be a first step to actually make the transition. And then I was thinking, okay, what could be a different path? What could you do as well? You could say, okay, I don't want to use that script to actually write the data to the RDS. You could look into something where that script reads the data from the S3, the raw data, and pre-process that file into something that you can ingest directly from an RDS database with something like an import command. Could also be something, right, where you have that might have some upsides because you can do the pre-processing really nicely in your script, and you have then the pre-processed files. You can store them for later and work with them later. Could be something cool. Also, you would benefit from running a command within the database to actually import from something like a CSV file or something. I think that could be really cool, right? Who's with me on this? Are you still here, everybody? By the way, if you have any question around that, just fire them in the chat. I'm going to answer them. I'm going to answer them all the time throughout the stream. Just whatever you have regarding data engineering, regarding this topic, just post it in here. So, and I thought I would. That's a first step that you could do. What else could you do? You could say, okay. Now here the downside with this setup, you have to manage the actual EC2 instance. So you manage this instance, and you need to let it run, and or basically you have to configure it. You have to maintain it. Maybe this is not the best solution, actually. So there is another option I have here on the left that I think would be the even better option. But let's quickly go to a few questions. A better solution would be to combine the solutions where CloudWatch and Lambda trigger EC2. Yeah, but that's not like. I think the problem here is more the EC2 part. You have to actually manage a machine. You have to manage a server. If it's this micro was just for development for my student, like with a small instance. But you have to manage these, and I think that's not a good case. That's not the best solution here. What could be a better solution on the left? Now that the thumbnail is gone, what could be a better solution than using this? I'll answer a few more questions. MySQL command would be the easiest option then. So I think for the import, easiest option. You can use that, but then you have to basically make sure that the data you want to insert into the database is absolutely clean. So you need to have a pre-processing step, for instance, in the script to create out of the source file a CSV file that you can easily upload or import into the RDS database or into the MySQL. Let's call it RDS MySQL. Yeah. So these are two options. I think neither is wrong. Both could work. What else? I didn't have maths in high school, and I've taken a course. Don't know how things would take place. Not sure how this fits here. RD already on the right track here. Exactly. Could you use Docker to package application and deploy on EC2? A bit differently. Yeah, the general thought is really, really good, but I wouldn't use EC2. So how I thought what you could do is that you actually say, okay, you take your Python script and you package this into a container, and then you could say, okay, in that you start that container up, and whenever this container runs, that container reads the data from, make it a bit bigger. That container reads the data from the S3 file and then puts it into the MySQL database. I just quickly want to see if I can show if I have something like a big cursor or something. Thought this would be maybe possible here. Like this is something that I think that you could use and would absolutely make sense to say, okay, what I do is I Dockerize my application. I leave the EC2 completely alone, and on AWS you have Fargate, where you can actually deploy your container, and you only pay for as much resources and as long as the container runs. So this is a real big benefit. This way you don't need to have it, you don't need to maintain, and you don't need to create and stop and manage cron jobs in here. You could just simply say, okay, I'm packaging my script into a Docker container, and I execute that Docker container. And how would you use that? The thing is, you could do different things. You could say, okay, I'm combining this like with this part here, with this part. Somebody already mentioned this. Like you say, okay, I'm CloudWatch and Lambda. You put CloudWatch and Lambda here, but the Lambda actually executes then containers. In the Lambda, you start the Docker container on Fargate, and this way you can actually schedule this, or you use Airflow or on AWS it's called managed workflows or something. But it's a bit more expensive on AWS. So for a beginner, I would say schedule this with CloudWatch, make a schedule, create a Lambda that executes, that starts a container up, and then you're already, you would be able to actually run this. Another question here: what would be the format on S3? JSON or some binary format, Afro, Parquet? Could be anything. This could be, as you said, like this could be a CSV file, or it could be a JSON, or it could be a Parquet. You take this, you read this into your container, and then either you post it directly to a database, or you just do the step before. You say, okay, I'm creating a CSV out of it that is then easy to actually here. Basically, you would then, let's duplicate this. You would then take this here, and you would use S3 file, the other way around. Come on. S3 CSV. CSV file, and this here could be S3. Let's call this files JSON Parquet. Right. So this way, this is what you could do. Then you have this as your destination folder, like a temporary or a staging folder. Staging S3 with CSV files here. Let's make this way. And then you pre-processed file. Yep. Pre-processed. And this is how you could actually run this. So there are these two options. For a small amount of data, that CloudWatch Lambda read write can actually absolutely work, can be fairly easy. For bigger data, you have basically these two options. And of course, it's like this going from a EC2 and having a simple Python script running to something like a Docker container. This introduces another layer of complexity, right? So you could do it for a learner. You could do it in a two-step process. First, set this up, develop your application, test this on EC2, and then this is why I said your test environment. And then you could say, okay, I'm Dockerizing this and I'm putting this on a production environment. Basically learning this as a 2 or 3 step process. First step would be a Lambda. Second step would be working with EC2. And the third step would be a Docker container, where you go from the right to the left, from easy to more complicated, to something that to a bit more abstract than Docker. And if you would need to go any further, yesterday we were talking about Kubernetes. You could say, okay, I'm setting up a Kubernetes cluster where I then deploy the container myself. Yeah. So that's something I think that would make sense. Maybe I'm wrong with the Lambda. I already see here a question. Why not use AWS Lambda with Python run in Docker container? Not sure what you mean. Not sure. Not sure what you mean, because somehow you need to trigger this. Somehow you need to start this, and you can easily do this with a Lambda. You cannot trigger this directly from CloudWatch. CloudWatch cannot directly trigger a container running. You need to have this intermediate, let's say intermediate piece of code, piece of software, how you can run this. Would Fargate handle the high file sizes in this case? Could be something that you do, like the low file sizes you do with Lambda, the bigger file sizes you do with something more complicated or something that uses more resources and takes more effort. That's absolutely something that you can do. That would make sense, I think. Another question was here. What's that here? I guess the solution would vary then according to the business problem. For crucial data with constant needs to be updated, and Dockerized script would be suitable. And for data which can be updated in chunks, MySQL scripts would be better. Most likely a script. Let me change this here. Most likely this staging thing you would use for, I'm not sure if this is the best solution. This would be then, this would be some trial. My feeling is that if you have something like the Docker container here, you actually wouldn't introduce the staging of the file. You would just write the data directly. If you want to write it quickly, should I delete it again? Not 100% sure. I think I would try it. I would try to immediately write it into the database, because then you can work with transactions and so on. So I think this is more for a one-time write. Not sure. Not sure. I think let's delete this here. Let's delete this. I don't like this actually. Most likely I would try this. And if this works and if this is good, then I would keep it. So this here, I could have done this a bit different here. Could have done it like this. Good for small data. Good for larger data that takes longer to upload and more resources. Good for small data where processing needs low resources. Okay. So that's what I wanted to show you. Like we were talking about this morning, and I thought this is something that would actually make sense to share for people to get a bit an idea of the thinking process and a few options that you can actually use. Yeah. What do you think? Let me know what you think here in the chat. Is this a problem you already had before, or is this something like something completely new? Or any other question? Let me know any other question. I'm basically done. That was I wanted to show this today. I don't have anything more. Now I'm open for all of your questions. Like post your questions in the chat about if you want to know something about my academy, if you want to know something about the coaching, or if you want to know something about data engineering in general. I'm guessing you're here and you like data engineering. You're interested in cloud platforms and so on. Just shoot your stuff in the chat. I'm going to answer a few more questions, and then I'm going. But another thing is that I wanted to mention exactly is, you see in this case, you have to actually know SQL. So you need to understand how to write data in. You need to understand are there ways to actually import data maybe from a pre-processed file. You need to understand how to work with different file types. That's something that is very important. A good that you need a foundation to actually be able to understand or have this in your repertoire. How would this look in GCP or Azure? Alex, that's a very good question. I'm not the GCP and Azure expert, unfortunately. So what could we do here? My guess is so what you can do on Azure, this thing, how does this thing look on Azure? On Azure, what you would have here most likely is a file store or blob store. I think it's called file store on Azure. File store. Yeah. You would have file storage here. Azure file storage. Here you would have a function. Scheduling, I'm not 100% sure. CloudWatch versus, I forgot this, versus Azure Monitor, maybe Monitor. Azure Monitor, a trigger function or schedule function. It's all in German. Trigger timer for Azure function. Is this also available in English? English. Doesn't matter. Australia. This article how to trigger Azure functions and trigger functions. Not 100% sure. Azure Data Factory. You could maybe you could do this with Data Factory. You could do this with Data Factory, but let's say you wanna do this in multiple steps, just like we had before. Yeah. So somehow a trigger. You need a trigger somehow here. I'm not sure how you set the trigger on Azure. What you then could do is you could say, okay, they have HTTP triggers and time triggers. Okay, then you would have would have a time trigger. Would have a time trigger here for your function that then schedules the function. The database you would have Azure Microsoft. Let me quickly look. Product. So or German again. Products. Storage. You would use most likely something like databases. Azure SQL. Azure database for MySQL. Azure MySQL. We have this, we have that. Then we would need to use a compute virtual machine, for instance. Yeah. They're called here. It's basically the same thing. Virtual machine, you have your Python script, you would run this, you would run that. That's basically exactly the same. For the containerized, you would look into containers, easily run containers in Azure without managing servers. That's what you would container instances. Azure container instances. And then my guess is, yeah. Azure trigger container instance. Can Azure instance be invoked via trigger? You can trigger the container to run either from Logic Apps or Azure Function. So it's, as I said, it's exactly the same thing. Azure Function. Then you would have a time trigger here again. And I'm guessing Azure Airflow service. Is there an Airflow service on Azure? Maybe not. That might then be. Not 100% sure. right? So that's how you could. Of course, there are other on Azure. There are also other things like Data Factory, where you could also do the same thing. That without a container, you could set up Data Factory with a Python script and run this on Data Factory. So for Azure input data into MySQL database. Yeah, that would be also something that you could say, maybe this is something between here. Yeah. Function trigger. Option using Data Factory. This could be some other option that you can do. Yeah. Yeah, they have something called Azure Monitor. I'm not. Thanks, Braulio. That's the equivalent to CloudWatch. So either I'm not that familiar with Azure. Not 100% sure if you can actually trigger a Azure function through Monitor. My guess is that most likely this will work. Let's quickly. Trigger Azure function. Let's quickly set this to English again. Monitor. Dependencies. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Some more stuff. The advantage of using functions and containers instead of Data Factory is the cost. That's something I have heard as well. Like Data Factory isn't that cheap. The thing is, like, you have to always think about the size of the data and what you actually want to achieve. So it's the same thing with AWS Glue on the AWS side. Like these things, for Glue it runs Spark, so this only makes sense if you have huge jobs or like if you work with a lot of data. My principle is always go for the simplest thing. If with a function or on AWS, if with Lambda it works. Don't touch it. You just use it. If you already see the files are getting too big, I need the lambdas run too long, it's getting costly, then you would move to something like a container or a virtual machine here. But always have to always use the main thing that you want. Yeah. And you would actually, you would run this container. When you execute the container, how would that script generally look like? That script would be a Python script. For instance, the question is here, how do you trigger from a Lambda, how do you trigger a container or something, or a Lambda function? No, not Lambda function. How do you trigger something? You would use, for instance, Boto3. how to trigger Boto 3 is one of the main Python packages for working with AWS. So in that Lambda function, you would write a piece of Python code that then triggers in Fargate the right container. Maybe we can quickly search this. Boto 3 trigger Fargate. Boto 3 run task with Fargate and Lambda. Lambda to trigger a one-off ECS task. That's something that you call here. Boto 3 Lambda call to run ECS task needs hard coding. It's okay. You need some hard coding here. That's generally how this would look like. You create a handler, Boto 3 client. You run a task, my cluster, Fargate. Outside task definition. Resource. Policy. Something like this. Something like this should look like this. Yeah. That's how basically how you would work with this, and that's how you would actually start this. More questions. What are general best practices when exporting files? Write to CSV when possible. Read from Parquet for better performance. It's always like there's not a real. You can't really say, okay, this is the best solution that you use all the time. There is no perfect fit. Sometimes you have to use or sometimes you want to use CSVs. To for instance, if you have something like a BI tool and you want to load this somewhere, or you want to share this with someone, sometimes the simple CSV is the best option. Of course, if you want to say, okay, I'm having large files and I want to efficiently access them and so on, you can go for Parquet. Parquet is a cool file format. If you want to say, okay, I want to like I've shown here, you have something like you have a file, a process file that you want to then the data from that you want to import into a traditional database, something like a MySQL or something. Most likely this would only work as a CSV file, right? I'm guessing that it's just a guess that Parquet isn't available here. So I think that's something where you would then actually say, okay, let's just go for a CSV file and be done with it. Of course, CSV files are not the optimal thing, but yeah. Okay, cool. So now I talked 45 minutes about this topic, but I think as you've seen. I think this was also an interesting part. Like you've seen generally when you look at how stuff is done on AWS, and then you look at what you can do on Azure. Most of the time it works exactly the same. It's just a different name. Here's called virtual machine, and the other is EC2. Here's called Azure Container Instances. On AWS it's called Fargate. Right, that you have CloudWatch on AWS, you have Monitor on Azure. It's the same thing. It's the same. It's always the same thing. It's the general doing is different. Of course, they have different APIs and stuff to work with, but generally the concepts are always the same, and that's why it's so easy to actually to actually understand this. And with a bit of Googling, you can find something out. Yeah. Would it be nice to use S3 event notifications? If file is uploaded to S3, Lambda function can be triggered automatically. This way flow will be event driven. That's something you can do, yeah. You could say, okay, I don't care about, I don't want to schedule this after time. I want to create, oh no, here we're in the wrong thing here. I don't want to schedule my Lambda function here through CloudWatch on a 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute schedule. I want to, once something comes here or gets stored in S3, I want to immediately process this. Yes, you would then set here in between, in your Lambda function, you would actually then create a S3 trigger, and that's it. And then you would be event driven from that. It's different thing you could do. You could also then you could do the same here with that Lambda. Once something arrives here, you could execute that Lambda that executes the Docker container that then takes the data and runs with it. That's how this stuff works. Whoops. So yeah. All right. So that's it. Thanks for being here. As I said before, the coaching is open again. If any one of you is interested in the coaching, you can join the coaching. We also have something new in the academy. The academy now has a plan. So previously you could only join the academy by paying the full price of the annual subscription. Now you can do it in 3 installments. We've just before I joined and before I had the technical issues, we just set this up. So you can actually now go, let me open it up again. Where is this? So you can, once you're in the academy or on the site, you can go here, and then nowadays from now on you can join 3 payments, an annual subscription, and not just the big payment. I think we're going to try this. People were asking for it, and like, why not? Why not? I think I want to try it. It would be fair to actually add this. For me, it's of course then I would have a bit of a delay when the money comes in, but who cares? Like, okay, I think that would be fair. Something else about the coaching, what we've done also, what we put on the site yesterday. The coaching actually right now, our Zoom sessions are in a different time slot. Why are the Zoom sessions not mentioned here with the times? I need to write this here. This needs to go here. I think it's in the FAQs, but why isn't it here? What? I'm shocked. Okay, I need to talk to Miro about this. So the Zoom sessions right now for the coaching are every Monday and every Thursday. From the new group on will be my 6 a.m., which will be midnight New York or 9 p.m. Los Angeles. And the other session would be 4 p.m., my 4 p.m., which is 10 a.m. New York and 7 a.m. Los Angeles. So we're going to change this from what it's on the site. I need to talk to Mira about this. Mira is doing the the site updates, and I think we should. This isn't. It says it here, but it's like it's too hidden. We need to put this more. We need to put this more up to front. Yeah. By the way, Mira, do me a favor. When you're on LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn, but go on LinkedIn and give Mira a follow. here. Give Mira a follow. Mira is managing the content here. Mira is doing our Learn Data Engineering company page. She's managing the website. Please give her a follow. She posts news about the site, so you can stay up to speed on what's all about. You see, she reposts the stuff she wrote on Learn Data Engineering. So just follow her here. I'm trying to get her to also write some other stuff, not just our Learn Data Engineering repost our company page site. But the company page, the 17,000 followers on the company page, that's all Mira's doing. She's doing a really awesome work. So give her a follow. Yeah, I think she will be happy. And yeah, thanks for being here. That's it. Have a great day. Tomorrow is already Friday. It's like how fast the time is going right now. Crazy. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Have a great day, and see ya maybe tomorrow. Let me find the end button. Here's the end button. So see you later. Bye-bye.